Yeah, so here we go again. I'm parked, well, not parked yet. I'll be parked. I am halted near the new location of the T joint where I've moved to. I'm here for the loyal customer and friends opening party, I guess is the term of it. Mm. I'm quite a ways down the road. It's going to be like a minute of walking. It's not like I can do that. Well, to be fair, I do got my cutlery with me because it was requested everyone bring their own. In the spirit of it being a party easy to manage for the owner, not that they only manage a party and do dishes and so on. Totally understand that. Don't have a problem with it. I've also brought my one of my teacups to reserve the shelf on the loyal customer wall, I guess. Funny how that works. Mm. Parking here is actually not as expensive as I had thought it'd be. I'll be able to park the evening for less than $15 and first take PayPal money for parking by paying by app because I pay for that with PayPal. So it could be worse. I'm kind of detached from it, don't feel real. It's also where people give me diesel money if they do, assuming they don't have it in cash, which a lot of people apparently do not. I'm kind of detached from the money, but I still ain't got it, so but it's too painful not to pay. So I might as well pay, if I'm here already anyways. I'll manage. Don't know what the plan with the party is, not the slightest clue. I did bring a bottle of wine, though I don't even know if they drink alcohol. And just because that's the way I was raised, I guess. I don't know. If I'm invited somewhere, I'll bring a guest gift along. And they don't got to drink it, but they can, I'm not forcing it upon them. I realised I got the mic a bit far away. Ugh. There we go. Yeah, I actually driven around the block. Well, around this block, one-way streets going opposite directions with tram in between, and that block. I've driven around 3 times just to end up in a spot that was available the entire time. Funny how that worked, I guess. Yesterday I did watch some of my past therapy, but an earlier version. Don't quite recall the number, but it's the one with mediocrity. And the crazy thing is, it's still hold up. Reason I watched it is because I felt I was no longer aspiring for mediocrity and I wasn't managing. Even though opinions can change, I guess all my opinions from then are still true, which is crazy because it's more than half a year ago. And I believe at times I was aspiring for more, for excelling at what I do, but it's not sustainable for me, energetically, spoon-wise, or whatever you want to call it. So I'll have to manage, Not looking forward to it, but I don't got the energy for an accomplished life. I guess I do. It's kind of sad to say. Yeah, I'm really kind of sad about that. I'm still in a liquidity tight spot. Still got next month's rent and utilities bills covered with debt, but still, I already got the debt, so I got those covered. But realistically, it should come through before then, the money, that is. And I've actually considered, with the conversion from tobacco to CBD or to hemp, CBX, whatever, CBN, CBC, going quite well into that by basically spending a month's worth of tobacco money on acquiring a starter kit, I guess, with enough to smoke for more than a month. One thing I did realise is slightly odd is I'll then be able to drive and smoke, and the car will smell of grass. It's only hemp. It's not going to be cannabis in the legal sense. Well, it's not going to be marijuana in the legal sense, which means I guess it's legal to operate a motor vehicle and heavy machinery. Don't deem it irresponsible at this time, though that might obviously change. But yeah, I'd be allowed to roll around with something that looked like a blunt. Or clouds coming out of the car. It's kind of asking to be pulled over and have your blood checked for drugs. So I've got to make sure I'm very well legal, because obviously that hasn't been adjusted. Then again, with the once in a blue moon joint I smoke, at this time I'm fairly confident I'd be very legal for a very long time, even with the limitations as they currently are not adjusted to the law changes. But you know, I'll manage. The world works in mysterious ways, I guess. Reason I realised I was kind of flying a bit close to the sun, in the sense of Icarus, is I was window shopping, because what do you do when you're broke, you know? And I ended up window shopping for real estate anywhere in the range of 6 figures, and I don't foresee a future in which I'll be comfortable going into debt enough to be able to afford something like that, or to put enough by side. So it's just not going to happen. It's kind of sad to say. It real bummed me out. I only just realised with these reflections you can tell where I am. I don't mind, because it's not like doxing with business, I guess. Well, today you can figure out where I am. Usually you cannot. But today there is identifying markers. Yesterday I took a phone call in a socially not appropriate situation for me to answer the phone. That is for the other end of the phone call, not socially appropriate. I was in my own flat, so nothing wrong there. But the only reason I took it is because it was a number I didn't know. If it were a number I had known, I would have called back, because I was kind of in an important sitting by myself. Yeah. And apparently it's socially not appropriate to answer the phone then. So I only do with numbers I do not recognise. And you might have heard it, you might not. An AMG C63 just driven by. It looks like they almost not broke, but they very much so stressed their differential with the downshift for braking, which is kind of funny. Car proper bopped. So many cars here are going significantly quicker than 50 kph. It's just sad. I should just give up hope and just accept the mediocrity as is. Oh well. I guess that's something I'll still have to figure out proper when I grow up, you know, for good. Because though I am grown up in many an aspect, I still dare to have hopes at times, which is, I believe, dangerous territory. Just because the base definition of hopes, I guess, this means they're improbable, and flying too close to the sun for my liking. It's uncertainty with hope of bettering, which is not something I'm too fond of. It's kind of sad. flying too close to the sun. Might as well mention the temperature. Well, looks like I'm gonna have to pull my key and put back in. Nope. The car want to remind me I need an oil change soon. Well, I'll need the money first. There we go, started, maybe it'll show it then. There we go, now it's 20.5 degrees centigrade. Humidity is high. Wouldn't be surprised if a thunderstorm were looming in the air. Feel like it, the clouds look like it. Wouldn't be too bad. I'd actually quite like a thunderstorm. Anxiety is growing for me on multiple fronts. First off, the economic one. I mean, by the time my bank account is not enough, I'll have gone $1,000 into debt. Admittedly not toward the bank, but still. Rainy day fund, that was not originally my money. And is not my money, I guess. So I'm getting anxiety from that, with the government coming through and giving me my money soon enough, you know. I'm also kind of anxious. That's got a few more days before it's grown to proper anxiety, I guess. With my thesis supervision. Because I did apply for an external supervisor for my thesis. Just because I want to do it in the area of video art. Applied physics as basis of video art is my working title at this time. For which I don't see much suitment within our uni of which I'd actually get anything. Which means I'd love a tutor to do that as external supervisor. But I sent an email to them this Monday morning. It's now Saturday. They haven't come through, and I don't believe it's not because I haven't seen it. It's because they presumably don't want to tell me no. Then again, they might have just not seen it. I'm probably overreacting here, but it's just how it is, I guess. I really would want to do a thesis in that area, and I'll probably even do it if I don't find an appropriate supervisor. I'll just use my prof as supervisor. They are not an expert in the field, but I don't think they'd care much as long as I don't give them any hassle. Thesis defense is supposed to start on 12th of August. Though oddly enough, one of the two internal profs qualified for that, in the area of film that would be, only start back at uni on the 18th of August, which put the uni in an odd spot, I guess. I don't know, but good news is one doesn't have to pick the second examiner, one can just have one given. Which means, I guess, it's not my problem. I just really got to hope the supervisor works out. I mean, I'd prefer a supervisor who is comfortable in the field and who can give me some hints and who I can bounce things off of, like just once or twice while writing. Every now and then, you know, better than nothing. But I'm fully prepared to write the thesis myself without bouncing anything off a supervisor, just because the looking less and less likely for me to be getting one. Funny how that works. Oddly enough, I'm here for a party, and the earliest extreme was an hour ago on the spot. I just looked at the watch and it's 1600, and I'm not feeling a hurry to go there for some odd reason. I'm looking forward to it, don't understand me wrong, but it's 1500 was the earliest extreme the way I understand people work. It means the earliest extreme is not even considered by most for showing. When I'd driven by earlier looking for parking, there was one person there whom I know by name and who I like to converse with. So I guess that's one thing making me want to go. But they'll still be there in 10 minutes. Then again, I might very well continue this session later on and have 2 temporally stitched segments. Yeah, I'll probably do that once I get back home. Goes without saying, it's a party. I am here with motor vehicle, which means I shall not consume alcohol, which is fine by me, I guess. Funny how that works. In the session I mentioned earlier, I actually watched back from more than half a year ago, the one with mediocrity in the title. Best I Can Do, I believe it was. Mediocrity. Don't know what session, don't remember. Oddly enough, back then I was actually up for doing public transport. Crazy how quality of life can change in such a short period of time. I mean, it was more than half a year ago, but less than a year ago, so my quality of life has changed significantly since, to the point where I can no longer go on public transport. Pains me to say. Obviously, do limit my mobility in quite a major extent, and it costs more, but I just can't do the people on public transport. If there were such a thing as public transport without having to risk interaction with people in proximity, I'd do it stroke of a moment, assuming it's not more expensive than automotive transportation. But the way it's seeming, that's not going to happen. Public transport go toward crowds, which is not something I like. Anyways, I'll probably continue this later at home. If not, stay safe. Odds are we will though, so see you later. Yeah, so here we go again. For you, this was but a moment. For me, this was pretty darn close to 7 hours. Been to the party, have now just arrived back home. Well, close to my home, let's say it that way. I haven't arrived in my flat yet. My flat does not fit a motor vehicle. In the meantime, I have received an email from my preferred, what's the term? Darn. Mentor. It's not the right term, but it's close enough. That they'd be up for supervisor. There we go, supervisor. That they'd be up for supervising my thesis, which is something I'm quite happy with. I was starting to grow very concerned because it had been a full working week since I emailed them initially. So I guess that's something, you know. It's actually not something, it's quite a lot. I was really getting anxious about that. And I now no longer have to worry. Just have to get them to fill out the forms and then have to have the uni sign off. I have good reasons, so I have no reason to believe the uni would not sign off, you know. It's been a long day, and the most day I just spent yapping with people. A few friends of the owner, whom I am aware of and knew before, and a few I did not know before, by name at least. So I've grown my circles once again, my horizons. I'm really looking forward to going there, like early next week once. Thing is, I'm currently really rather broke, so odds are it'll have to be something like a black tea, because I think I've got enough change in coins to afford one of those. I hope. That's hopefully going to be something, you know. I've actually been gone most of the day. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention earlier. There we go. Is I actually managed to have a shower today. I hadn't managed the day before yesterday or yesterday, on both days which I initially intended to have a shower. Today I finally managed it. It's actually quite nice to have this hair not be greasy AF for a change. Though now it's full of knots and I'll have to brush it tediously later on, you know. One thing I haven't done, which I usually have on Saturdays by this time, is the background infrastructure for the film club tomorrow. Don't even know who's opening up, so it might very well be me. I suspect I won't have to. That's going to be something. I'll probably arrive early and sit in the car again, talk to myself, because apparently that's a thing I do more frequently these days than I did in the past. Funny how that works. The car have just gone onto reserve approximately 10k ago, 15k ago, which means I now have approximately 40k of range in the diesel tank of this car, and I have another 230 or so in the can in the back. Well, 200 for the sake of argument, to be close to reality, which means I will have to tank by the end of this week, or at least top up like 20 litres or so, you know. Not looking forward to that, because my bank account is in the negative, in the rainy day fund range, which is not my money in the first place, and I still owe to someone, though they were so kind as to give it to me as a permanent loan should I need it, and sadly I have, which means I can't stand on my own legs. And again, I am not economically viable at this time due to being a student, I guess. I don't know. I smoked quite some today, tobacco that is. More than I'd like to, but I'm not too fussed about it. Once the government come through with money for my living being subsidised due to studying and therefore furthering education of this country, and because I'm going to be viable to pay more taxes in future, assuming I'm not disabled, which I happen to be. Even then, I'm paying more taxes later in life because I'm making more money. So that's the whole kind of deal. But once that comes around, I'm pretty sure I will try to not spend much of it on tobacco. Might still get a carton of cigarettes or so, but I'll spend most on CBC, CBN, and CBD grass. Flowers, that is, dried flowers. Just because I am very seriously considering switching to that. Not due to it being attractive, but primarily due to tobacco losing its attractivity. It's rather expensive, you know. And people don't like the smell, and so on and so on. Then again, with CBC, CBN, and CBD, because it all is derivatives of the hemp plant, well, they are just hemp plants that are directed one way over generations. Bread. not the stuff made from flour, but they are bread. I'd risk the car smelling of hemp, which I don't know how I feel about. I might have to get doctor's notes for me to smoke hemp, but I shouldn't have to, because as far as I understand, it's completely legal. I mean, hell, even proper grass containing THC is perfectly legal now. It's a whole restructuring and rethinking kind of thing, I don't know. Haven't been productive today in the slightest, besides having a shower and getting up. My second plant is now actually proper grown, and the first plant is growing its second pair of proper leaves. By proper, I don't mean the 5-axial ones, but the non-seedling leaves. The non-round ones. Surprising how exhausting it was just sitting around and yapping with people I know and I don't know. Had a fun time. Because the way I was raised, I guess, I did bring a bottle of wine along. Luckily, I have a little stock of those, so as I once did of most things, I guess. So I don't got to worry about spending money to bring guest gifts if I'm invited places, I guess. It's just the way I was raised. If you're invited somewhere, you bring something along, you know. And I couldn't even drink none of the wine, but to my understanding, it wasn't even opened. And I hadn't known if the tea dealer was even drinking wine in general. Turns out they are very happy with it. So I suspect they might crack it open once they get home tonight. Hoping. you know. I'm starting to get to the point where I have a lot of things to do and have done on the car. It's now at the point where it wants a service within 37 days or 1100k, which means 37 days assuming I can't afford the diesel for the meantime. Which would be another, a year since the last oil change, not even, but presumably the kilometers are the difference, be 15k or so, 15 megameters. Yeah. I guess that's the past 3/4 or 2/3 year since I last had it in the shop. That'll coincide with getting new tyres. I got a contact from a person I respect in the realm of motor vehicles and so on, whose opinion I respect, and there's a guy with a garage. It's closer to my end of town than the person I knew previously, and it's certainly cheaper than the professional workshop I had used in the past, not knowing anyone in this city. I say professional because to clean up a contact they charge a couple of $100 just if you have a dodgy contact on a connector, which is not viable. I mean, I understand they have a lot of bookkeeping and so on behind, but every business does. And with a mum and pop shop, haha, is I guess what I'd call it, even though there's just one guy to my understanding. If it's that and you haven't got the idea, they'll say, oh, give us a 10 or put someone in the coffee register, which theoretically is not legal because there's tax evasion. But in that range, I believe it's accepted, societally accepted tax evasion, because there's not enough effort to justify the money to do bookkeeping and so on. I mean, that's why even governmental places have a kaffeekasse, a coffee register. It's just for the small things. You all put money in it and you get coffee out of it, which you do not get receipts for in general. I can say that was at least the case with the, I guess it is government, local government place I had worked at in the past. So, it's societally accepted tax evasion. Then again, with a professional shop, you don't get that. This is only my second cigarette since I left at the T-joint. This one here. Which means I only had one while driving. On a 15-25 minute drive, something in that range. It feels like no time at all, because once you get one green light and you do the speed limit, you get all green lights. And these hours, there isn't enough twats who speed in front of you that you can't just roll through the green lights, through the green wave. You don't got to stop. You don't even got to slow if you do it right. Everybody will be dancing and be doing it right. Everybody will be dancing and be doing it right. French music with English lyrics. Funny how that works. Then again, I have listened in the past to what I believe Belarusian music with French lyrics, so all exists, you know. I'm not sure, it might have been Russian. Not sure which the artist was. Odds are it was Basta, which would be Russian. I'm looking forward to bed, though I suspect once again I won't be able to properly sleep. Yesterday I almost went to sleep. Well, I almost slept like 8 p.m. Then I woke up and I weren't able to sleep till like 2 a.m. again. Almost as if polyphasic sleep started too late in the day. I've considered trying siestas. My problem is with getting up after them. So, I mean, I don't have much of a problem. That is more than 30 kph. I don't have much of a problem with waking up. I have a problem with getting up. And polyphasic sleep would mean I'd have to get up on several counts on the day, per day, which is probably a hard one, you know. Yeah, so today I was not productive at all, but it did still cost spoons. Spoon theory spoons, that is, energy units. Just because hanging around for 6.5 hours with people, it's actually hella expensive and draining energetically. Funny how that works. I've actually considered, and earlier today I did do it a bit during the party, carrying my hair open again. It's starting to get to the season where it's sensical. Just because, yes, you don't get as much airflow, but for that you get protection from the sun, which is, I guess, a funny metric. Yeah, a car doing 30 kph driving by. Isn't it beautiful if people manage to obey the law? When I think it's not that hard. I mean, I can do it, and if I can do it, everyone must be able to. Come on. What standard am I? I'm the lowest standard one could set. Hell, earlier, while at the party, I actually left on my main lights, my low beams of the car, all the time while I was there. Reason is I got out on the passenger side due to the driver's side being toward a very busy road. And with that, I did not obey my shutdown procedures, which means I entered my car cigarettes once I'd left the car. Hardly fathomable, I know. And I also didn't check out the lights off, and the car did not notify me because I never opened the driver's side door. Luckily, when I returned later on to the car, I still had 11.6 volts on the battery, which apparently is enough to start the car. So I guess that's how it is. Funnily enough, when I went to the car in between to get the ashtray and cigarettes, I hadn't noticed the lights were on, just because it was day. Hope that don't happen again, because that's close to have to ask people for roadside assistance. I mean, I have jumper leads, which means someone would just have to pull up and stay there for less than a minute. But still, social interaction I'm not asking to have, you know. I hope you know too. Stay safe. I'll see you around. Cheerio.